Secretary Mayorkas, I'd like to continue the discussion about the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, and specifically the Chemical Facilities Antiterrorism Standards Program that is overseen by CISA. The CFATS program, would you please describe for us how your budget provides continued support for the CFATS program?
Congresswoman, I'll have to remind myself of the specific funding for that program. That funding is very important, and of course it has been in tremendous peril recently. We strongly support the continuation of the CFATS program. It enables us to ensure that high-risk chemical facilities are as secure as they need to be.
And would you agree that a continuation of that program is an important part of the mission to protect critical infrastructure?
I would, Congresswoman.
And would you also encourage our friends and partners over in the Senate to take up the bill that was passed by the House and is currently there awaiting their consideration and action?
Congresswoman, I'll look forward to reviewing that bill again, but we do indeed consider the CFATS program to be very important.
And I'd like to then return to the subject of CISA and its role in elections infrastructure and its efforts to help state and local election officials protect elections infrastructure. Specifically there, could you describe what CISA does to help state and local elections officials defend against threats from foreign adversaries and domestic adversaries to that infrastructure?
Congresswoman, one of the things we do is provide training with respect to the threat, to be able to identify the threat. We share best practices. We have marked election security as one of the 6 priority areas in some of our Homeland Security grant programs to ensure that state and local jurisdictions devote needed resources to a fundamental need of our country, and that is to safeguard the integrity of our election processes.
And moving to the question of breaches and cyber attacks, what efforts is CISA making to bolster its own internal cybersecurity? I know they were victim to a recent cyber attack. Can you describe for us the efforts internal to CISA on cybersecurity?
Congresswoman, so that is a priority for the department as a whole. Our Chief Information Officer and that team is consistently working day in and day out to enhance our security. In addition, CISA works to enhance the cybersecurity of the federal civilian domain. It issues binding operational directives based on what it learns from particular incidents to ensure that agencies and departments are patching or protecting themselves against detected vulnerabilities. This is a very significant mission area of ours. The cybersecurity threat vector is not, unfortunately, diminishing.
Related to HSI, I'd like to go back to that subject, which you addressed earlier as it related to some transnational gang activities. But specifically within your budget, I'd like to discuss HSI and its operations related to child exploitation and human trafficking. Your budget calls for additional funding there to help HSI investigators combat human trafficking, does it not?
Yes, it does.
And would you explain for us the types of activities and role that HSI takes specifically as it relates to the exploitation and trafficking of children?
Congresswoman, I named crimes of exploitation one of our 6 mission priorities for the first time in the department's history. Tomorrow I will be with HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, in New York City, launching a new campaign against online child sexual exploitation and abuse. This is a scourge that is not only nationwide, but is global in nature. More than 36 million tips were presented to enforcement authorities across the world. Domestically, more than 63,000 of them reflected an imminent or grave threat. The extent of this crime cannot be overstated. The work of HSI in combating it is heroic, both in disseminating education and awareness, in investigating the crimes, in rescuing victims, and holding perpetrators accountable.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.